One question that has been very difficult for me when I transitioned from working a corporate management salary job to a full-time creative media producer is, why did you leave your high-paying job? You know, your cousin's going to be the Netflix CEO someday. Papa, please leave. I'm trying to become a professional YouTuber now. What is wrong with him? He's 38 years old, wants to become a YouTuber now. Anyway, the question I have is, why is it so damn hard to stay consistent when it comes to creativity? Is something wrong with me? Yes, there is. Because I see other content creators and artists consistently making epic stuff, and I'm mentally tapped out after a couple of projects. Enter Rick Rubin and his New York Times best-selling book, The Creative Act, which has significantly impacted my creativity and how I look at it. For those who don't know, Rick Rubin is a legendary music producer that has worked with many other legendary musicians and artists like Beastie Boys, Jay-Z, Aerosmith, Johnny Cash, System of a Down, and my personal favorite band of all time, Linkin Park. He's also the co-founder of Def Jam Records, so he's no stranger to seeing how some of the biggest creative personalities of all time work, as well as tap into the creative act. I asked myself, why did I reach for this book when I saw it? I mean, it's an awesome cover. Well, I've been a big fan of Rick Rubin and what he has meant to the music industry, and I wanted to learn about his amazing works. I honestly thought this was a biography, but let me tell you, this is anything other than a biography. It's like a series of messages to creatives who are currently on their path to finding themselves as creatives or those who are struggling. And I happen to fit somewhere right between the two. Here are 4 of the things that I took away from this book that I remind myself every day. First one is, create art for you, not for others. Have patience in creating your art and getting it recognized. Self-doubt is completely normal, and you don't need to wait for a lightning bolt moment to be creative. Just get started. Rick Rubin writes, "It isn't popularity, money, or critical esteem. Success occurs in the privacy of the soul. It comes in the moment you decide to release your work, before exposure to a single opinion. When you've done all you can to bring out the work's greatest potential, when you're pleased and ready to let it go." In the past, the way I measured success was by the recognition or the appreciation that my projects would get from others. And then there were other times where I would be like, oh man, that reel I spent 2 days creating only got 10 views? I must be bad at this. All of these thoughts are in my head. Am I happy with this project? Is this something that I'm proud to make and glad I was able to get my vision out? If yes, then I'm grateful for having it done. While we do see some people out there getting viral with their videos and art, they all kind of started making things that they truly wanted to communicate to the world. Take Keith Lee, for example. He started making TikToks because he really wanted to review some of the restaurants in his area and wanted to spread the message about how awesome they were. The second key idea is to have patience in creating your art and getting it recognized. He writes, "Time is something that we have no control over. So patience comes with acceptance of natural rhythms. The implied benefit of impatience is to save time by speeding up and skipping ahead of those rhythms. Paradoxically, this ends up taking more time and using more energy. It's a wasted effort." As I'm growing into this creative community, I'm constantly thinking, why can't my stuff look like that? Or how long before my stuff gets recognition like that? Or I even find myself thinking, damn, my stuff is not as good as that. What's the point of even trying? Taking shortcuts, being hard on yourself, and constant comparisons to others are all signs of impatience. We can't force greatness to happen. Sometimes when we get impatient with expecting high results, we have to remind ourselves that it just isn't our time. Our opportunities will come knocking. We just have to be here every time when greatness comes knocking. Another thing that I continue to notice after I read this chapter was that having impatience and rushing things are truly a waste of time. Whether it's client work or even my own, when it comes to creativity, I have to learn to slow down and go through my processes. Third is, self-doubt is normal. He writes, "The people who choose to do art are many times the most vulnerable. There are singers considered to be best in the world who can't even bring themselves to listen to their own voice. And these are not rare exceptions. Many artists in different arenas have similar issues. When I read this part, it brought me the most relief. There are many times where I can't bring myself to look at my old work and things I've created because I immediately get embarrassed or look for critical flaws. How do we overcome this? Rubin says that creating art is a blessing and a curse for the creative. We have to accept that our work may never be good enough, and it's part of having a stronger inner self that wants to express their art. For those who cannot ever get over their self-doubt, he simply says, it's a privilege. We're choosing it. We're not being ordered to do this. I mean, it's a bit honest, but necessary statement. I'm sure he can attest that he's worked with many great musicians that had self-doubt, and some who might have been consumed by it. But the ones that are able to put it aside and just release their work will either gain success or learn from their failures. Finally, he says, you don't need to wait for a lightning bolt moment to be creative. Just get started. He writes, if lightning doesn't strike, our work need not be delayed. Some storm chasers believe that inspiration precedes creation. This is not always the case. Working with lightning bolt is simply working. Something that I've always struggled with is thinking that I need some sort of inspiration or a lightning bolt to get my project started. I tell myself, maybe I should watch some of my favorite movies from my favorite directors or rewatch my favorite animes. Where does that lead me? I end up watching Interstellar or Saving Private Ryan and just procrastinating. Just get started. Or what I've been doing, just keep practicing. When I start doing that, sooner or later, inspirations will start to arise. What I've also been doing is writing every inspiration that comes into my head, whenever and wherever I am. I carry this commonplace book wherever I go. This gives me a list of ideas that I wrote down when I'm not in the storm season. One thing that Rubin continuously reiterates is to just get started. Don't wait for any moment or the right time. We have very limited time to do anything, let alone wait for our creativity to strike. If you're in a rut, take a walk or walk away altogether and come back, but don't quit. We keep going, we keep working. And there you have it. It certainly was a pleasant surprise as I was expecting a biography, but I learned a heck of a lot more from this. Definitely something I'm going to keep rereading during the times that I feel mentally stuck with the creative process. If you guys like our summary about the creative process, be sure to check out our other summaries on similar books here. See you there.